Very good morning, creatives. Good morning, marketers. Good morning, everybody. So lovely to have you with us this morning at the IB Insight series on this glorious and chilly sort of transition into winter. I see so many stragglers are still making their way into the room, so I won't get started with the program just immediately, but just to say hello to everybody from Amanda. I see Jacques is here, Jana, Kathleen, Katlejo, Kirsch, Laurel, Mapula, Marcus, Marika, Nati, Ongeziwe, Samuel, Tandisiwe, and everybody else that's slowly but surely making their way into our attendees for this Insight series. It's so awesome to have you with us today as part of the IAB. My name is Danilo Acquisto, and I'm going to be hosting today's webinar for you as I do the Insight series, just to make sure that our program runs smoothly and all the learning and key takeaways are really translated well. And for those of you that are maybe slightly new to webinars on Zoom, just a couple of sort of housekeeping notes that there are two sections that you can interact with us below. There's obviously the comment section, which will allow you to be able to just pop comments to everybody who is attending the webinar itself. And you're welcome to obviously pop some notes across to the speakers and just share some of your insights there as well, and network with your fellow colleagues from our industry. There's also a Q&A box at the bottom, which is where we'll be posting all of your questions. There will be quite a lengthy, in fact, panel discussion at the end of our session, depending on how fast our speakers make their way through their session. And so we do really want to make sure that this leaves you with actionable insights for the work that you do on a day-to-day and for setting the futures of what your companies will be up to. So please do post your questions for our speakers. If they're addressed to an individual speaker, do let us know so we know to not address it generally to the panel, but I would love to see some of your questions pop in as we go. So if you haven't yet already done so, please do pop a little hello in the chat. Let us know where you're from and just sort of how you're doing this morning. It would be lovely to find out more about who's on the call with us today. So Adele and the others who have just joined recently, just a warm welcome to the IAB Insight series, episode 50. Today, we're going to be covering another topic around sort of AI, but this time taking a real note into Gen AI, but specifically in the realm of hyper-personalization. And as marketers, you've been hearing this buzzword over the last few months and years, and we focused on the trends of audiences desperately demanding messaging that feels personal to them and the ability for AI to be able to empower that journey of growth. And we've got three incredible speakers who are going to be talking us through the various topics. First and foremost, the MMA AI Coalition board member, his name is Munyaradzi Nyakaravanda, and I'm very excited to have him with us on the call today. He'll be our first keynote. Then I'm going to hand the microphone over to Jadine Hartley. She's the learning team leader and Anglophone editor-in-chief of Trace Academia. She'll be telling us about how they're implementing most of this feedback into their day-to-day. And we'll end off with looking into the future. Paul Wasson, he's 99 Sense's head of innovation, and he will be sharing some more insights into what the future holds for Gen AI. I must say that today is pretty special because Jadine has got an interactivity function in hers, and our two other speakers have interactivity polls as well too. So please make sure that you have your mouses and fingerprints and pads ready to interact with the polls. But more importantly, Jadine is going to be asking you to scan a QR code and interact with her live during the session. So what I would love you to do is, if you do not have a sort of QR code app on your phone, to download one in the background in the meantime. But most of the modern cell phones, that if you just open up your camera and you scan over the QR, it will automatically pick up the URL. You'll tap it and it'll take you to where you need to be. But if you don't have one of those phones and you do need to get an app on your phone, just download a QR code scanner. Alrighty, I see we have the majority of our people in the call today. Welcome to all of you to episode 50 of the IAB Insight series. A very big thank you to all of our sponsors who help bring these events together. They are an amazing bunch of people who are so passionate about driving marketing forward. And they are Biz Community, Ornico, the Marketing Association of South Africa, Everlytic, as well as Roamwork. And they've empowered us to bring the session to life today. Let me just get straight into it and start with our first little note from our speakers today. I don't know if you know that the IAB South Africa has taken really a long-term view and proactive approach that looks ahead towards what the consumer looks like in 2030. Critical discussions around that we're having at the IAB and all of our councils and in the committees are around AI and growth for the industry, and trying to incorporate initiatives like these, the IAB Insight series, which is powered by the Education Council at the IAB. It's a chance for us to all learn from each other and from the best in the industry. We also have the Bookmark Awards at the IAB, which is powered by the Education Council, and so on. Many opportunities for the IAB to use the incredible network of expertise in the industry to be able to empower and drive the industry forward. And so that is why we meet on a monthly basis as part of the Insight series. And that's why we engage in these Q&As to help all of our members and the broader industry grow together. Let's get started with our first speaker. So I'm very excited. This man, unfortunately, had to take the call from a vehicle today simply because, and we're very, very proud of him and his daughter, he's had to attend a graduation, a very, very important milestone in her life. And so we're going to have his slides on screen presented by our team as well. But he is very fired up and ready to share with us all the insights that he has from his many, many years of experience. He's currently a global MMA IA board member, and he's here to share some of his insights with us from his internationally acclaimed award-winning experience in our industry as well. He's worked across different industries and global brands such as Barclays, Standard Bank, Cadbury, Vodacom, Celsi, Jägermeister, and the list goes on. And so it really, really is an honor to have Munyaradzi with us on the call this morning. Munyaradzi, how are you doing? How was the graduation so far?
It's good. Just settling in. Just actually stepped into the car from a bit of a photo shoot. So I'm hoping I'm photo ready.
You're
And
looking
I'm looking
good
forward to
and
engaging with
dressed.
everybody.
You're looking good and dressed for the case. So I'll leave the stage to you, Munyaradzi. Thanks for sharing your insights with us today.
Awesome. So thank you, Danilo. And welcome to everybody. And I'm taking a very conversational approach to this topic, right? It's a very complex topic, and it's obviously something that I can't cover in an hour or 2 hours or even 10 minutes, right? So the topic is obviously uncovering how AI technologies can enable personalization at scale, essentially. Next slide, please. Apologies, my slides are a bit wonky. As Danilo mentioned, I'm in the car. I promise you, this is not my formatting skills. But essentially, the first sort of thing that you have to consider when you're talking about personalization or AI or anything for that matter, AI is not the thing, right? It is merely just an activator to your strategy. So what you need to actually be thinking about as a marketer is what is the vision for the future, right? What is the thing that I want AI to one, augment or get better, right? Because as marketers in a lot of instances, and you'll see in my next slide, is that this is the landscape. This is what we're dealing with in terms of AI, the generative AI space. There's over 2,000 companies or products that are just talking about Gen AI, right? So how do you navigate this complexity? So you take this and you take the MarTech landscape. It is just confusion overload. So as a marketer, one of the key insights or one of the key things, and I'm going to share in my next slide, is that you have to start being very, very deliberate about your why. So understand why you're actually doing it. What are you trying to do? And I've just put together like 5 steps or 5 sort of key considerations when you're embarking on this journey on AI. The first one is you need to define a data-driven customer engagement strategy. This will allow you to win in the hearts of your customers, right? Sounds very simple, but it's actually harder than it sounds. The second one is you have to actually be very deliberate about your data strategy and your analytics strategy. You need to be able to understand all the customer touch points. What do they mean for you? What do they mean for your business? And the third one is you have to actually embrace a customer-centric operating model, right? AI will not work or deliver any sort of value in a business or an enterprise when you don't center the way you operate around your customer. So by that example is, how does the CX team interact with the marketing team? How does the marketing team interact with the design team? All those things are key and to you being able to activate personalization, leveraging AI or not. It really doesn't matter. The fourth one is you need to adopt a test and learn culture. You constantly have to test and iterate and see what works, what doesn't work, and optimize your operations, optimize your outputs, optimize what you're focusing on. Otherwise, you end up just having a bunch of hypotheses that are maybe not aligned to what your customers are expecting. The fifth one is you need to adopt a measurement framework, because at the end of the day, it's all good to use these AI tools. It's all good to think experience and personalization and all those things. But then is it actually driving impact at an enterprise level? So you have to be very, very deliberate about understanding what this actually means within the context of the things that matter to the organization. Revenue, how to drive revenue up, how to drive costs down, and how to and how to and how to sorry, it's just a call, and how to yeah, sorry, this is some technical difficulties. So basically, the measurement framework will help you understand how are these experiences performing against key metrics within your organization. Next slide, please. The second part that you have to think about is, what are your building blocks, right? So essentially, I mentioned in the previous slide, you have to take a very deliberate customer experience strategy. Like, what are the things that you have to be considering? And the tip here is, you need to understand your customers' frustrations and fix those. At the core of what personalization is why are you personalizing? Are you personalizing for the fun of it? Or you're personalizing to make your customer's life better so that you can drive better retention or brand salience in the hearts of your customers? What is the reason, right? So you basically have to align those and understand those from an intimate level in your organization as you get on this journey. Next slide, please. So this are the sort of key building blocks, right? When I think of personalization, I always say personalization or AI or whatever the tool is sits on top of a bunch of strategies and the ways of work or ways of thinking about your data and how your data moves from collection, which is, how you collect your data, how you actually unify it, meaning how do you understand the different IDs? What does a impression mean within the context of an organization, for instance? What does the page view mean? So how do you unify and understand what that means? The second piece is processing and storage, right? So how are you processing and decisioning against your data? So this is where AI can sit, or AI can actually sit across the entire ecosystem. The third part is the activation of your data. So as marketers, we know the time between us being able to engage our customers and us being able to talk to them to sell something is probably a couple of seconds, right? Especially in the digital space. So how do you transition from the left, which is the unification level, all the way to the activation? So this is how you actually drive, and these are the key sort of foundational building blocks around, defining a data-driven customer engagement strategy. You need to consider all these sort of areas, all the different phases that your data is moving through, and so that you can understand every customer touch points. And under this, there's certain key drivers operationally within your organization that you have to be thinking about. First thing is data governance, right? The second one is the technology. What technology are you going to use? The third one is personalization, right? It's an actual strategy that you have to be deliberate about. Setting up your operating model, right? As well as your data strategy and your measurement framework. And training, right? Because you can't just expect AI once you plug it into work. People need to know how to use it. They need to know how to interpret the outcomes of these things, and then be able to apply it within certain business use cases. Next slide, please. This is what the landscape looks like, right? So as you can see, there's that this is pretty much just a detailed view of the previous slide. But the long and short, don't try and figure out what's happening on this slide, is that when you're talking about personalization or AI or data activation or whatever the case might be, there's multiple different conditions or systems that you have to think about. First of all, you need to understand the process. I think the key takeout here is you need to understand your process, understand your landscape, and then understand how AI potentially make first-party data collection easier, right? How do you make analysis and prediction easier using AI, for instance, if that's what you're focusing on? So knowing your why can be very, very critical in you before you even get to this stage, so that when you get to this point, you know where you're in. So it becomes an easier thing to do as opposed to trying to clutch at straws. As you can see, the landscape of these tools is very, 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 very wide, right? And it's getting more tools are being added by the day. So the key is you know your why, you understand your environment, you know where your inefficiencies are, and then you potentially point AI at those inefficiencies and see and measure what the outcomes are. Next one, please. Cool. So what now? So this is pretty much my epilogue as I wind down. What are some of the thought starters in order for you to take a very sober approach to personalization and AI? right? Next slide. Next. First thing is you need to understand your why. So a lot of marketers want to tell the business how good their marketing is. This is usually not very, very effective, because if you sit across from a CFO, he's going to ask you, you did all this personalization, all this stuff, but what does it mean for me, right? So you need to understand the why and focus on business outcomes. You need to be able to answer the so what question. The second one is be practical, right? Understand where you are, define a clear strategy and a roadmap, and then be able to activate this strategy and roadmap against business use cases, so that at least your impact is felt and you get more funding for your initiatives. The third item is measure your impact. So once you're doing all these things and you're running things operationally, you're running POCs, you're running tactical proof points, understand the impact that they're having on the organization so you can create a case for change. Next one. And the last one is measure the impact. Measure the things that actually matter, right? It's pointless reporting or measuring the impact of experience relative to, oh, we did this in marketing. What did it actually mean for the business? What did it drive for the business? And if you use an AI tool, or you use personalization, or you use hyper-personalization, whatever the case is, it has to speak to some sort of metrics that matter to the business. And a lot of cases is, how did you impact the cost? How do you impact revenue? How did you drive potentially retention and potentially salience within the mind of the customer, right? Can we see the impact of what you did on our bottom line? So essentially, that's what you should be able to answer. Next slide. So it wouldn't be a presentation from a data guy or a person who's worked in the data space or who's talking about AI without having some sort of formula, right? So as I said, the key is to map whatever it is that you're doing to value. So how much money have you saved, right? How much money have you made? How much risk have you reduced? And how much opportunities have you captured? And then you subtract that from the cost of actually running whatever initiative is. So that is how you basically align whatever it is that you're doing within the marketing, whether you're applying AI tools or running personalization at scale, whatever the case might be. That is how you align whatever you're doing to business value. Next slide. And that's me. Thank you very much.
Munyaradzi, this was super exciting. Thank you very, very much. And some great sort of frameworks and insights for how to actually manage this massive transition that a lot of people are trying to go through. The formula, even at the end there, I feel like that's the thing that we want to try and get out of you. So we'll make sure that we go and follow you on LinkedIn and get the details that we can from that. And I agree with Evan in the group. He just says, great mind there from Munyaradzi. I'm learning a lot from this presentation. Thank you very, very much. I also got a note in from Evan just saying good morning, and Marcus just sharing his love from T to say they're looking forward to the session today. And then so many people saying great insights, even Paul, one of our speakers. Paul, nice to see you. Saying this is really, really important. So important to focus on the fundamentals. And Evan and Lauren and Laurel and all the others. Thank you very, very much for your comments in the chat. We really appreciate the interactivity. I know that he had some polls you wanted to run with you, but I guess we'll do that at another time to get some of your insights out of those as well. Remember, if you want to post any questions specifically to our speakers today, there's a little Q&A box at the bottom. It's separate to the chat. So the chat is for chat. The Q&A will be for the questions that we ask in the Q&A section. So please do get them included in there as soon as you can, so we make sure we can prioritize your questions towards the end. There's no point in us talking to ourselves. We want to answer yours. Right, one speaker down, 2 to go. I'm very excited for this next presentation. It is going to be very interactive, so get your phones out and ready to interact with her. Jadine Hartley, she's the Learning Team Leader and Anglophone Editor-in-Chief for Trace Academia. Jadine leverages her passion for storytelling across diverse platforms. She's a decorated performer with experience on stages in Cape Town and Los Angeles, including World Championship wins. She transitioned to multimedia content creation 6 years ago. And today, listen to this. This is really, really special. She applies her expertise in film and theater to global ed tech innovation, leveraging cutting-edge technology, including AI, to generate inclusive, impactful, and data-driven learning experiences to connect women and youth to livelihood opportunities. Talking about AI for good, Jadine. And yes, everybody, her slide is meant to be blank and white. We did ask her this earlier. How are you doing, Jadine?
Well, thanks. How are you?
Very, very good. We're excited for your session. Take it away.
I'm excited to be here. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's session. So I will be speaking about hyper-personalization, but for now, before I get into it, I would like for you to take out your phones. Excuse me if I do have any, if I'm a little bit slow on the triggers. I am presenting from multiple screens and I have buttery fingers. So let's get started. Okay. I am specifically focusing on micro moments and macro impact. And I would like for you to get out your phones and scan this QR code. And then just tap your screen one time, please.
As an FYI, you should be seeing goldfish brain if you've tapped your screen one time. So as soon as you see goldfish brain, you're in the right spot.
That's great. Yeah, so buzzwords, right? They personally make my brain hurt and my tongue twist. And our attention spans are shorter than ever. We're looking about 8 seconds for Gen Z compared to about 12 seconds for millennials. And these micro moments, fleeting decision-making points, are crucial for grabbing your audience. And with AI, brands can deliver personalized experiences tailored to these micro moments, maximizing engagement. Now I'd like for you to tap your screen one more time, and we're going to be confessing to one another. So please tap your screen and then follow the instructions, and then I'm going to pull up the poll results. Okay, so I see a large portion of audience members fall into the kind of middle category, which is great for this presentation. Now, I would like to bring it into, I would like to incorporate a little bit of storytelling. So imagine you have a giant filing cabinet for all your customer information, not just names and addresses, but everything, what they buy, how they browse your website, even what they post about you on social media. So a customer data platform, or CDP, is like that filing cabinet, but way more powerful. So it gathers all this customer data from different places and puts it together in one easy to use spot. That is an actual image of me being integrated into someone's CDP. So this gives you a super clear picture of who your customers are and what they like. And with this knowledge, you can target the right people. So do you sell makeup? Your CDP can help you find the customers who love lipstick and target them with special offers on new shades, for instance. It also helps you send personalized messages. So instead of sending these generic emails to everyone, you can craft messages that are relevant to each customer's interest and buying habits. So here's how we in our organization better understood our audience. So Trace Academia is an edtech startup incubated by Trace, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us are familiar with it, the music channels. And so our mission at Trace Academia is to connect women and youth in priority with skills and job opportunities. So we initially designed our course materials, which is mostly video, with a female-dominated user base in mind. However, all the pretty presenters we used for our courses and thumbnails attracted a lot of men, right? And this is obviously not what we had in mind initially. So we did an audit of our catalogs and marketing efforts across TV and digital. And it turns out that the skills, visuals, and the language we used in our courses actually skewed more masculine, potentially excluding our intended audience. So then we tested an array of new skills that we added to our catalog and added a fair amount of masculine and neutral thumbnails instead of the originally used female presenters for the courses, and amended our digital and social strategies. And it actually attracted a higher percentage of female users. Ding dong. And this really highlights the potential for unconscious bias in visuals and the importance of A/B testing different approaches. We then also managed to refine our in-app personality quiz, which we then used to curate learner pathways. And this is obviously based on updated user profiles. And this situation really demonstrates that even seemingly neutral elements can influence who is attracted to your content, even if your intentions are good. So we definitely need to go beyond assumptions and actively gather data gather data. So for us, by conducting an audit and understanding user demos, we were able to refine our approach. So let's look at centralizing data for precise targeting. And Our lookalike audiences also let us expand our reach to users with similar profiles to those who have already converted on our courses. But it is really important, just to kind of piggyback off of what Munya said, it is really important to invest in data analytics training for your team, because data is sexy. And if your budget allows, get yourself a filing cabinet or CDP. Gather those insights, unify the data from all customer touch points, and then create detailed customer profiles and segment them for more effective marketing campaigns. Okay, there we go. So CDPs really provide the data that fuels predictive analytics, allowing businesses to personalize content and marketing efforts for a targeted audience. So when we look at leveraging this, the strategic framework for this would be to develop a customer journey map to identify key touch points for personalization. So you then leverage marketing automation tools to send targeted email campaigns based on customer segments and behavior triggers. And then it's really important to incorporate AI-driven A/B testing to continuously refine these campaigns, as we did with the thumbnails, for instance. So segment your customer base. This is pretty much what I just said. And then use AI for predictive modeling. And then just think of, in terms of leading to more effective marketing and customer experience, think of sending re-engagement emails to customers predicted to churn with tailored offers or content recommendations in our case. Now I would like for you to tap your phone for another confession time. So which personalization superpower would you rather have? Okay, so it seems like our audience is definitely leaning more towards the power to suggest the perfect product every single time. So the good news is you don't have to choose. You can have them all. So let's look at the building blocks for ideating and implementing hyper-personalization strategies. Number one, so it's really important to pick your personalization superpower initially, right? So do you want to suggest products that people might like based on what they've looked at before, like take a lot recommendations? Or do you want to change the look and feel of your website for each visitor, like some news sites showing different local headlines? That's kind of part one. And then you can really go and make your website super smart with AI if budget allows for it. You know, your website can learn about each visitor and adjust itself in real time based on what they do. And then it's really important to keep score. So track how people interact with your website. Do they click on recommendations? Do they spend more time on personalized pages? This tells you if your efforts are working. And then naturally, you have to learn and improve. So based on what you learn from the data, you can keep making your personalization strategy even better. And once you've established a foundation with your pilot program, you can delve deeper into real-time personalization. So integrate those micro moments into your personalization strategy, and then use AI to predict browsing behavior and deliver relevant messages like discounts at the right time. So let's look at a case study from Sephora, the beauty giant, and how they hyper-personalize virtual consultations. So now, ladies, or I suppose gentlemen, with new and household brands innovating with new shades of lipstick, shadow palettes, and what have you, keeping track of it all, let alone purchasing a new product that might not suit your skin tone as desired, or you know how that goes, can leave you wasting money on products that often expire in your vanity case or gets regifted. I know a lot of my family members have so many lipsticks, courtesy of moi. They are welcome. So Sephora does things very differently. What they do is really interesting, and I've had so much fun actually exploring this. I'm not going to give you a demo, but if you have some time, check this out. So first, you kind of schedule your consultation through the Sephora app. Then you answer a few questions about your skin and makeup preferences. Then they connect you with a beauty consultant who can see your face. You then get personalized product recommendations based on your skin tone and needs. And then you can experiment with different products using AR technology. Some consultations offer that, where you can try on different shades of eyeshadow or lipstick yeah. And then you can purchase the recommended products directly through the app. And AI helps execute real-time personalization like this, which is pretty cool. Let's look at shoppable live streams next. I'm really excited about this as well, although I don't need more reasons to shop. Yeah. So let's say you're scrolling through social media and bam, your favorite makeup brand is live. So now they're not just showing all of their latest products. They're letting you see them in action. So they might be doing a live tutorial with an influencer, showing you exactly how to use that new eyeshadow palette that you just bought. So products displayed during the live stream are usually tagged, as you can see on the slide, and with clickable links. And these links, often appearing as product icons or overlays, connect views directly to the product page on the brand's website or app. So here's where AI comes in. And yeah, I think this is just really fun. It's a fun, immersive experience for those of us who tend to avoid shopping malls like the plague. So back to our building blocks. So you can work with your chosen AI platform to develop specific rules and triggers for personalization. So think of explicit triggers. So these are actions visitors take that signal specific interests. So like adding items to cart, clicking on specific categories, signing up for newsletters, and then implicit triggers. So based on visitor, these are based on, oh, my mouth is so dry. And these are based on visitor data you've collected. So like location, previous purchase history, browsing behavior. So use these triggers you identify to personalize content, products, and offers. And if a visitor views a specific product category, show them related items or offer a discount. So now I'd like for you to tap your phones for the last time. So imagine you're shopping online for a new outfit. Which scenario sounds the most annoying? Okay, but getting bombarded with discount codes for things you'd never wear. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have a couple of examples, but I think I'm hoping Paul is going to touch on that. So every website you visit shows you pictures of happy couples in matching sweaters. Yeah, I've never understood that, but I suppose there is definitely a user base for that. Okay, so we've got a good combination of, websites keep recommending the same boring stuff that you've already looked at, or you get bombarded with discount codes for things that you'd never wear. So it's really important for us to make sure our personalization efforts stick across all channels. AI ensures a consistent and personalized experience across all customer touchpoints, right? So Nike, for example, uses AI to create a seamless omni-channel experience, integrating data from its app, website, and physical stores to provide personalized product recommendations and offers. And this is really something that you should be aiming to do. You can't have it personalized on one of your channels and then everything else is quite lackluster. And I would say that if you're kind of brainstorming or playing around with the idea of implementing hyper-personalization strategies, yes, I agree with Munya. The foundation really has to be there and you can kind of build on it. But key considerations, so here's the slide for personalization, that would have probably helped. So yeah, I'm just kind of repeating what I said here. Here's a quick actionable strategy for you. Develop an omni-channel personalization strat. This involves creating a unified customer profile that integrates data from all touch points, kind of going back to what I spoke about earlier about the personality, the in-app personality quiz that we've developed. This obviously keeps getting updated as we learn more about our users, and then leverage AI to personalize communication and offers across all channels. So I would say that when you're thinking of exploring AI-powered personalization for your business, the key considerations, in my opinion, would first be to identify your goals and your target audience naturally. So who are you actually trying to reach? And then invest in the right tech if your budget allows. And if it doesn't, you really have to huddle and find really innovative ways to approach it. And I often find that delving into narrative and branching path strategies helps me a lot. And what we do, as a startup, we don't have an unlimited budget. But there are innovative ways that you can kind of put it on paper, at least, so that while you build, you can slowly but surely incorporate elements, micro elements. And then develop a data governance strategy. So transparent and ethical data collection is really important. And if you've got some time, there's some really fascinating case studies about Apple and their governance strategies. And then I would say, well, naturally, you've got to start small. So begin with a pilot program and then constantly measure your results, track it, and then refine your approach as you grow, as you build, and then focus on the human element, right? We were all super worried about AI just taking over humanity and our jobs, and with super intelligence and all these other buzzwords, and it's honestly, it's really overwhelming. But AI shouldn't replace human interaction. It should augment it, right? To create a more meaningful customer experience, right? So a lot of times AI does the things we can't or don't want to do. And that is my time. Thank you so very much. And feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn if you're interested in sharing some case studies or just having a chat. That'd be super great. Thank you so very much.
Thanks, Jay Dean, and thanks for all the interactivity tools. I think we all had to check whether we were really old or not and knew how to use new technology. So thank you for testing our QR code skills and all of that. It was much appreciated. Thanks for your session. Paul is already itching to go. He knows that he's tight on time. So Jay Dean, thank you very much for your time. And Paul Wesson, so nice to have you with us, the 99 Cents Head of Innovation. As Head of Innovation in Advertising, SA's largest retail agency, as you know, 99 Cents is doing some incredible work. And they have a long-term ambition to equip organizations to effectively integrate and scale AI-driven solutions in an ever-evolving consumer landscape. On a day-to-day basis, Paul spearheads transformative omni-channel strategies, as JD had mentioned, that drive business efficacy and unlock creative potential for 99 Cents' primary clients, including ShopRite Group, Ackermans, and Spur. Nice to have you with us, Paul. Your 10 minutes is now 8. Are you ready to rock and roll?
Thanks for having me, Daniela. I'll keep that in mind as we proceed.
Lekker.
But this presentation and the reason why we're here together today is not really to talk about 99 cents, it's to talk about hyper-personalization and what that means for you. I'd like you to imagine a world where every brand touch point you experience feels like a reflection of your dreams, ambitions, pain points, and everything else in between, because it actually will be eventually. To make this analogy a little bit clearer, we're going to be talking about the hyper-personalization hamburger. As my fellow speakers have been touching on today, it's got to be made up of a section of components. The recipe for the hyper-personalization hamburger, from my perspective, includes data governance, data collection, machine learning, customer feedback / user input, generative AI, and a segment of one. In terms of data governance, that's just a fancy word. It's a fancy way of saying, just follow the law and be a decent person. We're seeing a lot of that type of basic common sense being lost in the mix at the moment, especially if you've been following the news. You'll have seen Sam Altman not just used Scarlett Johansson's vocal likeness without a permission, but directly against her consent. This represents bad data governance from my perspective. Yeah, and so what I'm aiming to deliver to you in this presentation today is what big tech companies like Google and Temu can tell us about hyper-personalization. We'll address the question of, is it invasive, and how to avoid that. TikTok can teach us a lot about the humanity of an algorithm. We'll look at how shoppable social trends and trends towards social commerce are both pointing towards hyper-personalization in the near and immediate future. And we'll look at extended reality as a way to finally bring the full omni-channel and 360 creative to life. For this part, I'd love to get the poll going about Google. Google, as most of us are familiar with, they tend to listen quite a lot to just about everything we do. And it's something that I talk about a lot, is that I don't see Google as a search engine company. Of course, they're the most used search engine, but I consider them to be an advertising company. Their revenue stream seem to suggest the same is true, with 76% of their total earnings being from advertising. And just this week, on Wednesday, in fact, they had their marketing keynote for 2024, and they were showing off some new and fancy ways that their paid media is going to be taking place in search. Here we see an example of somebody entering a search query. They're volunteering information about a need they have. They're looking for short-term storage. Then the way this will play out in future is it won't click through to the website as it does now. It will ask you to volunteer further information about yourself. In this case, the user is invited to upload 5 photos. These 5 photos of their home, different rooms in their home containing furniture. These images will be processed using machine learning, such as segmentation models that can help identify what furniture is present in these rooms, such that it can tailor a solution for your need. It will then recommend a storage unit which can accommodate all of your furnishings without any problems. Then it will take you through to their websites. So this is what the very near-term future looks like in terms of hyper-personalization. What we're looking at now in terms of a failed attempt at hyper-personalization, well, Temu, we don't need to look further than them. I say a failed attempt, I mean, it makes them a lot of money. Temu, much like Google, is not what it seems at surface value. They're also an advertising company with 62% of their total earnings last year coming from retail media spend, which means you can bid on keywords in Temu's search functionality. Now, the way that they're inviting interaction on their platform is a lot more exploitative. It harkens to gambling and casino sites where users are sort of manipulated into volunteering information about themselves. Each of these little data touch points is information which feeds the machine learning algorithms over at Temu. And this exploitative experience is reflected in the court of public opinion. We don't need to go further than the latest headlines to see that Temu is in hot water, and justifiably so. If any of you watching today have Temu installed on your phone, I invite you to uninstall it as soon as you can. Pinduoduo is their parent company, and they are facing lawsuits all over the show for scraping data and exploiting operating system vulnerabilities on cell phones to get data which they shouldn't have possible access to. This extra data that they shouldn't have possible access to can include things like, what is the text of the notifications you're receiving? Did you just get a payment from your salary? Okay, great. Here's some ads based on what's on your wish list. These kinds of personalization experiences are not really appropriate. And a takeaway for us to take away from this is that data collection ought to be collaborative for hyper-personalization to work well. Now, those are hyper-personalization examples that actually just use the top 4 components of our hyper-personalization hamburger. The generative AI layer is obviously something that's on everybody's mind. And tailoring it to a segment of one, instead of just of micro segmentations in your CRM, as an example, who's in Cape Town, who's in Johannesburg, we can get much more detailed about that. And packaging all of these separate components together is where it really gets quite difficult. And what that package looks like for one business to the next is a different question. And we don't, we've heard from our colleagues Munyaradzi and Jadine about how to go about doing that, strategically focusing on the customer and asking them, including them in the process, instead of voyeuristically gathering data on them in a way that is beyond their consent. Invite them to volunteer information about themselves. It would be weird if I could guess what your favorite color was, but if I asked you, that's much more friendly. Now, Google, whilst they're doing good things in the near future, they've also got a reputation for being impersonal. Many of us have heard all kinds of experiences like this. Is Google listening to you? I've had experiences myself where I was speaking about a product with a friend or a family member, and then very shortly thereafter, I was served ads about that very thing. That's uncanny, and it's not cool. Now, we can see an inverse of this in people's experience of TikTok. The TikTok algorithm tells us things completely differently. And this would probably be a great time to run the poll on TikTok. I'd love to hear from the audience if they feel TikTok is the app for authenticity. I feel that we'll probably see a similar landslide result here, with most of us feeling that that's probably true. In fact, there's a trend on TikTok. It's not the largest one in the world, but it's responsible for 30+ million posts to date. It's this idea that I'm responsible for my own algorithm. And that is not, that's not by accident. The first thing that you're invited to do when you install and open TikTok for the first time is it asks you to volunteer some information about yourself. Interesting to see a more even split. We're 50-50, agree, disagree, that TikTok is the app for authenticity. Well, what we've got when we log into TikTok for the first time, it asks us to collaborate. What is it about you that you would like me to know? Are you interested in comedy? I'm obviously very into hairstyles, as I'm sure you can tell. And then the very next thing it does is it invites you to start giving feedback. It asks you to start swiping. The rate and speed of swiping is all something that is measurable on your smartphone, and it goes into these machine learning algorithms to determine what content is being enjoyed by you and what is not. And the court of public opinion, again, is out on this. It's pretty much a unanimous consensus as far as the broader community of academia as well as public is concerned, is that TikTok is generally perceived to be the app for authenticity. It serves people content that they want to see. And especially when we look at younger communities like Gen Z as an example. Gen Z is for the first generation, if not the only generation at present. I'm not sure about Gen Alpha yet, if they even have access to mobile phones. Hopefully, they ought not to, they're too young. But if they have unsupervised access to mobile phones, it's very likely that we'll see they are using TikTok as their primary search engine for information as opposed to Google. And what we can take away from this as marketing professionals and business professionals is that it is possible, at the very least, for algorithms to become personal as opposed to monolithic machine learning algorithms running in the cloud somewhere, determining the fate of what ads you're going to be shown. Now here, you'll see the user interface for an app, which looks very similar to what we saw with TikTok. We've got some categories that you might be interested in. The app is inviting you to volunteer some information about yourself, and then we're being served with short-form vertical video content. You might be surprised to know that this app is Amazon. Big business is trying to create hyper-personal experiences. Commerce is going social in the same way that TikTok has now defined social to be. Meta is kind of behind the curve on this. Twitter is, I guess, not even Twitter anymore. And Google Plus is dead. This is the future of social as far as big tech is concerned. And when we see TikTok doing the exact same thing, except in reverse, instead of finding products to sell and then trying to find an audience, TikTok has done another thing. They found the audience first, and they are now turning that into a shoppable experience. Both of these things point in the same direction, that almost all of our online experiences are starting to homogenize in certain ways. Everything will be shoppable shortly, and everything will have some sort of social component to it very shortly. But a bit over and above that, moreover, all of these things will be a unique experience for the user. However, there's a big bugbear in the room at this point. The limiting factor then becomes content, one's ability to scale content. And thankfully, Gen AI has entered the chat. This is also from Google's marketing keynote from the week, and they've showed new tools that's going to be implemented into the Google Ads planner very shortly. No longer will the ads be sort of programmatically made. They will be made using generative AI. You can upload pictures of your product, in this case, a couch, and one can enter a text description of an environment in which you'd like to see that furniture as an advertising professional. Very simple, very easy. These functionalities now that you'll see further, we've got object removal. These things aren't new to us. If you've been having your finger on the pulse, these things are now presently possible in using tools like Photoshop. Commercial grade tools, enterprise grade tools can do these things. But very shortly, I think we'll see that human input won't be necessary. We've already been given hints at this from the other Google ad customization that we saw with the storage unit. If Google knows what your home looks like, it should be able to automatically generate a textual description of that room and show you the furniture product as though it was already in your home. What we saw in that previous description was quite flat. It was studio lighting, very matte in its appearance, but that'll also very shortly be a thing of the past. Just 2 weeks ago, the open source community developed and released some code into the world thankfully, again, with a very generous Apache 2.0 license, which means anybody here can click on that link and use the code for commercial purposes. There's a code base called IC Lite. And IC Lite does exactly what it says on the tin. It will relight an object, like we've got here. The example is the Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon, and it has been relit on the right in a way which looks and appears realistic and natural for a background that it has been provided. It's very easy to see that what we could even then start to introduce, what mood would the customer like to have? What mood are they currently experiencing? And we can reflect this in the mood that is in the collateral. If they're in a glum mood, we might like to show them bright lights. If they're feeling romantic, we might like to include some softer lighting from a candle as an example. And it's not just limited to furniture or cars. IC Lite is versatile across the full gamut of FMCG goods and consumer grade items. I mean, this bottle of Jack Daniels is particularly remarkable to me, not only because it handles the lighting so well, but it even understands the transparency of the glass. Truly remarkable. We won't be limited to static, flat images. Here's an example of somebody using ControlNet, which is also an open source piece of code that was developed by the same person that developed IC Lite. And it allows you to customize and in fact rotoscope over an existing ad. I mean, I think every millennial in this presentation will have some memory of this ad, and maybe even a longing for an iPod. I could never afford one as a teenager, but there we go. So motion as well as 3D assets will very shortly be rolling out at the speed of electricity. Just last year, it would take around 20 seconds to generate a single static image using stable diffusion. We're now able to start producing these images at a rate of 300. These 2D and 3D assets, of course, we can start to include them into augmented reality experiences like we see with what's been done here on the George R.R. Martin Game of Thrones book launch, the Dior experience in New York. All of these things, can create personal experiences with the power of generative AI. I won't play the full demonstration
I'm
here.
like the Paul. I'm like the Oscar
Hey, Danila.
music.
I see
that's
that.
going to have the Paul. Very kindly. I suppose let's try and find one more example that you feel is necessary to do. I would like to get to at least one audience question before we wrap up, but I would like to let you. This is so fascinating, and I'm digging it. But we are about 5 minutes away.
I think this is definitely a good place to stop then. I think we are only scratching the surface. And I guess that's part of the point of this, is that it would be impossible to cover everything in just 10 minutes. There's so much more out there. And if you would like to be able to tap into the full future of innovation in generative AI and hyper-personalization, 99 Cents is your place. So get in touch with us, follow us on LinkedIn, and touch base with me there as well. I'd be happy to consult with you and give you some support along the way.
You're a legend. And from my experience of working with you in the space as well too, your passion for the environment is also bleeding into the excellence that you managed to deliver. So thank you very much, Paul, and sorry to cut you short.
Very kind of you.
Jay Dean and Mundiradzi, if you guys are still with us, you're welcome to turn your cameras on. Please do join our panel discussion. We'd love to have you guys with us in the last little bit. But given the fact that we've got 4 minutes, I'm going to do the cheeky thing. And I've been reading through the questions that have come up in the Q&A. Lots about regulation, lots about protection, lots about ethical issues and questions. So I suppose let's do this and rather go around the room, and I'm going to ask each of you if you could have a place to start and one key actionable sort of next step for brands and agencies to consider with generative AI and hyper-personalization, what would that one key takeout be from you? Paul, I'll give you a bit of a breather to think about it. You've just come out of your presentation. Mundiradzi, you've had the most time to think, so I will give you the stage first. What is the one key actionable takeaway you think our audience can take from today?
I think that the key takeaway is why. Just know why you're doing, because as with going anywhere, right, you need the GPS. So your why becomes your GPS to the location where you actually want to end up. Otherwise, you just end up just going around in circles or just spinning wheels. So just know your why, define your why, and make sure that your why is actually linking to some sort of business outcome, so that you have more support than people that are actually just in the marketing fraternity. You have the support of executives, you have the support of the leaders in the organization, and they allow you to be able to roll out your why and your strategies accordingly.
That's beautiful. I love that very, very much. We do hear it a lot of this hyper reactivity. It's like, oh my God, everything is AI. We must now be AI everything. Let's generate AI images. Let's hyper personalize. Go, go, go. And lacking sort of why does mean that I've seen that your little sandwich that you put up, Paul, was quite cool to see. It's like, this really is just the baseline. A why and a direction, and getting buy-in from a business value perspective is incredible. This reminds me quite a lot of the conversation in the marketing industry maybe 10 years ago about automation. And everyone was like, automate everything, but without an understanding of what the automation will do. It's a really expensive thing to do. You got to understand why you're automating, understand your processes as well. Great insights, Munyaradzi. Jadine, what's your one takeout?
I would say manage your expectations. So Gen AI, VR, AR, all these things are uber exciting, but the core principles of good marketing, still apply. So you need a strong brand identity, you need a high quality products or services, and you need an equipped team. So these things are just tools to enhance the experience, but they're not the magic bullet. So yeah.
Coming from agency side, are you basically saying take it easier on your agencies, don't bully them so hard into solving your life's problems?
Yeah, I'm saying, kind of don't go into it completely blind. You have to have a huddle session, and then you need to identify the gaps where training needs to happen, consume the content, figure out what works, but just, manage your expectations, because there are a lot of things to consider.
Love it. Don't go for the shiny. Paul, what is your one key actionable insight?
Oh, well, as a crow, I love a good shiny thing. But I would say that the most important thing we can do is empower the people around us. That hits two birds with one stone. In fact, maybe even more, speaking of birds. But it first of all helps to spread it helps to disseminate information and talent within your existing pool of people. It helps to multiply the problem of a machine not being able to exercise judgment. If you put this tool into the hands of a number of different people, they can exercise their existing skills to make sure that happens in a way that's not only decent, but also appropriate. And then I think the last of it is, just run towards the newness. It's a bit scary, but adopting will help to ensure that you're not left behind. And whilst work is evolving, we need to evolve with it. Things will change, and it will affect so many different industries. It's important that we remain empowered and empowering throughout.
Love it. Paul, the comments in the chat are hilarious. I think you need to change your title from head of innovation to head of comedy relief at 99 cents. I promote you internally without your boss's consent. But I really found this interesting. I think the comments in the chat do really wrap up our conversation today. Gia saying, this is absolutely interesting, incredibly interesting. Evan saying, thank you for Paul for exploring the shadow side of personalization, ensuring data protection. People saying that they're ready to take action on their insights so far. So many people really, really excited to learn the content. Munyaradzi, loved your content, and thank you for joining us on the post on such an important day in your personal life as well too, and a really big massive amount of gratitude from us at the IB for your expertise and innovation. Clearly there's a lot more conversation to have, and we'll continue to have those. So Paul, Jadine, Munyaradzi, good luck with the rest of the week and the weekend ahead. Thank you for your time today, and thank you for injecting all of your kindness and goodness into the industry as well. We wish you all the best in your careers as you continue to drive our industry forward. And that wraps us up as part of the IB Insight series for episode 50. Thank you very much to everybody for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next month. We've got some really, really exciting topics to come next month as well too. So looking forward to keeping your emails open. Check out your emails from the IAB, and we're looking forward to sharing some of that with you. I know we have some really exciting events still to come. I think dynamic content generation on the 20th of June is coming up. The new era of the creator economy, video podcast, live streaming in July, new data, predictive, automated, and smart data in August, and so much more, as well as all of those who have submitted their bookmark awards. I look forward to seeing you at the awards celebration as well too. Thanks again to Biz Community, Ornico, the Marketing Association of South Africa, Everlytic, and Romework. And please do follow LinkedIn, follow the IAB on LinkedIn as well as Instagram for any other announcements as well. Until the next time, goodbye and have a lovely rest of the week.